FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry, Lutz, and we love to talk about cars. You know that I'm a car guy, and we love talking with Pam Oakes. You know her well. She's a National Automotive Authority, ASE certified technician, former 20-year owner of Pam's Motor City, and author of Car Care for the Clueless. And, you know, she's, what are you, Pam, 3rd or 4th generation car geek? Fourth, right. Yeah. So that's what we always like to talk to people who've been car geeks for multi-generations, because you definitely know what you're talking about. And hey, auto theft definitely is a plague, and especially in the summer, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, it's funny that you're talking about this topic, because a very good friend of mine, he heads up the area auto theft for the law enforcement. And we have quite a few conversations. We're in Rotary together, actually. And sometimes he'll ask, what are you driving? And then he'll give me all the statistics on when it's going to be stolen, where it's going to be stolen. But I was like, thanks, Eddie. I didn't really want to know that. But definitely during the summer, those numbers tick up. And, you know, you have a lot of factors. You have some bored kids that get talked to by their friends. And then, of course, you have the professionals. And let's face it, who wants to be out in 5-foot snowdrifts stealing a car?
Oh, yeah. Well, all crime kind of goes into hibernation literally in the winter. But then when the weather gets nice, regardless what type of crime it is, it definitely picks up. And I guess kids or young adults who don't have transportation, they see autos out there, and it's their ticket to some fun, a joyride, if you will, overused cliche. And they see the car and they just hop in and off they go. So,
yes,
and
especially those that they leave the keys in it.
Yeah.
Or they leave them running in the driveway. Oh, yeah.
Crime of opportunity. There was a interesting incident here in Palm Beach Gardens in Florida, where a couple of 3 youths were speeding down a main thoroughfare in a Maserati, brand new Maserati with Wisconsin plates, blow right past a cop. And of course, hey, profiling, call it whatever you like, but the cop sees these kids and he goes right after them, and they try to outrun the cop, which is just pure stupidity because, look, a Maserati, high performance vehicle, it's not for a casual driver to try to speed in that thing. And they immediately crash into 3 cars. Then they take off. The cop catches them with drugs, and he said, "Where'd you get this car?" And he said, "Well, some old guy sold it to me for $300." And it's like, you know, it was just like, okay, come on, you're going to spend some quality time in the Palm Beach County lockup. And, you know.
It's like, you're so inventive taking the car, you couldn't think of a better answer than that. You know?
Don't you love it?
It's wonderful. It kind of reminds me of the time that in Naples, Florida, they have a Bentley dealership. And for whatever reason, they let he was an older team, go on a test drive by himself. Obviously, the salesman was fired after this one because they ended up towing the car back from the New Orleans area. Yeah.
Great move. Yeah, I see. You're looking for a new job. You're looking for a new job after that one, for sure. Yeah.
But, you know, these cars are, according to the FBI, they're taken approximately every 44 seconds. The car is taken out of its rightful owner's possession and driven away. And the most popular one is, I didn't know if you knew this, was a Honda Accord.
Yes, I did know that. Fascinating. You would think higher, caliber cars would get stolen, but they want them for the parts, correct?
They want them for the parts. And then the Civic and Chevy pickup leads the way regarding to pickup trucks. Chevy, Ford, and Dodge follows after that. But what I found amazing was the Dodge Caravan was in that top 10.
Really? Dodge Caravan, huh?
The Dodge Caravan. You would think they would go for the higher dollar car. But that Dodge Caravan, and of course the Jeep, and what rounds out is the Corolla and the Altima for the top stolen cars.
Yeah, and it's the parts market basically that drives the demand for the theft.
Yes, and there is, let me tell you, big parts markup for this. I went buying electronic components to a vehicle from the salvage yard, but I would definitely purchase a hard part like a lower control arm, something like a window, something like that. And they demand a top dollar for those used parts at the salvage yard. Let me tell you, there's big money to be made in car parts. You hit the nail right on the head there.
So it's all about the parts market, and therefore it's real important that you exercise a basic caution when always lock your vehicle wherever you're going, right? Important.
Exactly.
Yeah,
keep items out of eyesight. It's commonplace. At least 2-3 times a month, you'll hear on the news about how cars in the area had items stolen right off the front seats, and you know what? They're all unlocked. I mean, It's just the opportunity right there. And there's a couple of cases where the owner had admitted that he had a spare set of keys in the car, but on a store, you have a spare set of keys visible, easy to find in the car, and the car was gone. You're just handing it to him on a platter.
Yeah, so never leave anything of value in view, because that's just an invitation for theft, right?
Exactly. We think this area here, is pretty big market for auto theft, which, it's there. I mean, it happens quite often. But what amazed me, the top 10 areas were actually in California, and one of them happened to be in Washington State.
Washington State, really? I wouldn't have thought
Washington State. Yep, Spokane, Washington, yes. Big for auto theft. I could see more of California because, you could move the vehicle south of the border possibly and, have another form of revenue there other than parts. But it seems that in California, especially in LA, that the Japanese models are the most in demand, where in like Phoenix, Houston, Albuquerque, they're more of the pickup stealing kind of group.
Yeah.
And, good old Detroit and Chicago area, they still go after the American cars for the highest theft rate. But it's really interesting. We had a neighbor who, she does Mary Kay. All the Mary Kay cars are pink.
Right.
And actually, my friend is a law enforcement who I am in Rotary with. Her car was stolen, and after the fact, he told me all about it. It was going out to get car parts. He says, but he was trying to think of the logic. And this is where they're not thinking the person who steals a car is, why would you steal a pink car? It's so obvious. To steal a pink Cadillac that you're thinking you're not going to get caught. In fact, that's the car that actually busted the whole system there. Yeah, there still are chop shops out there. We were talking the other day, Peter and I were, that I had my great-grandfather's 69 Plymouth. And when I was going through it, back in the early 80s, and I went through it bumper to bumper, and I kept on coming across this number and the fender and, and the door and the inside of the door. And I was trying to figure out, it's like, this isn't a stamping number. What is this? This number looked like somebody engraved it. And it came out a few years later. My great-grandfather said, even back in the 60s and 70s in Detroit, they had chop shops, and he put his driver's license on the panels, inside the panels of the vehicle to help prevent theft. Or, they could locate it. They could trace it back to him, that part. So this isn't anything new. Auto theft and chop shops aren't anything new, but they're just getting more sophisticated, unfortunately.
Interesting. So that's how you do it. Wow. So, yeah. Well, now I noticed I bought a car used, and it had barcodes on all of the glass, which supposedly is able to cut down on the odds of theft dramatically. I don't know how true that is, but kind of makes sense.
It does, but, dealerships charge for that, and for the amount that they charge, the glass is going to be the last thing that's going to be important. I mean, they want that whole car. And when they see that on the glass, the professional auto theft group is going to basically ignore that part of it. They're after the seats. They want to have the computers in the vehicle, because even though you can't really mix and match, you can, because you can reprogram these computers now in most cases. And they want that engine. One time I had the shop there, and I would let law enforcement use the lifts, and there's 4 places on a vehicle that are supposed to match the VIN. There are codes underneath, the frame and the engine and so on and so forth. And there's several times that the car got hauled off, and the owner who purchased it from a legitimate dealership had not a leg to stand on because the car was hot. But the way that they did the paperwork was so slick that the dealership and the state couldn't even figure it out until somebody really started investigating it. Another thing that he was showing me about a year or so ago was other countries are starting to do the plates on the inside of the door tags.
Right.
And the plates. And he says, this is how you can tell, because he was driving what they call a clone car. That means that there was a second vehicle out there that matched his VIN and everything like that. But they were using it for law enforcement because they confiscated it, of course. And he says, look at this. And the car says, made in Canada. And it had Canada spelled with a B. So, yes. He says, look at this, And he says, this is big business for other people outside the U.S. and probably inside the U.S. as well, but to make these plates for the inside of the car.
That's fascinating that they're getting that clever. I guess it's like Rolex watches. They're getting so that you can't tell them apart. And I guess that's what's happening with cars. And hey, when up next, when we continue, Pam, going to talk about gas prices. How long can they stay low? Will they stay low all summer? How can you conserve gas even at low prices? And what are gas prices predicated on anyway? Because price of crude's gone down over 50%, and yet the price of gas hasn't gone down 50%. On the Financial Survival Network.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
Every week the show is growing. Would you like to be a part of it? Then go to clubfsn.com and help support us with $1, $2, $5, or $10 a month and get a host of premium content with newsletters dropped into your mailbox, free books, private audio clips, webinars, and much more. Then join clubfsn.com. If you want to get ahead of the trend and ensure your family's financial security before it's too late, go to clubfsn.com and sign up.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And if you just tuned in, we're talking with Pam Oakes. She is 4th generation car geek. And Pam, so we've seen price of crude go from, $110. Well, it was even higher than that, but we won't get into when it hit its peak. Now, Crude went down to the 40s. Now it's 58 and change as we speak. But price of gasoline hasn't gone down quite that much. It hit a peak of around $4 for regular. Now it's in the $2 range. You think gas prices are going to stay low all summer?
Well, actually, that's what they are predicting. AAA and a couple of other sources are predicting it's supposed to stay pretty steady. Of course, they also have that little asterisk in there that says that we're going to have an issue overseas, or if we have a hurricane come through the Gulf, or an earthquake in the area that is near a refinery, well, of course, they're going to spike. And, fuel prices and the barrel of crude, the imperial barrel of crude, is all based on speculation of all this stuff. There's everything with calm overseas, et cetera, et cetera. So I find it very amusing when a refinery does shut down because, of an earthquake or because of a hurricane, et cetera, that the next day those prices have spiked 10, 15, 20 cents.
Yeah, that is interesting that the price going up is always much more responsive and reactive than the price going down, which takes weeks or months. And that's just the way they always get the consumer. The consumer is always taking it on the chin one way or the other. And why is that?
Well, we don't have a lobbyist. The consumer's not going to pay for lobbyists like the petroleum companies and all the other interests in regards to fuel and petroleum products. They have lobbyists, and of course they work in their best interest. Another thing, though, that the consumer can do, taxes on gas. I'll give you an example. In California, they're always complaining about the gas tax and about how high it is. Well, they're the only ones that have not the summer blend, but the super summer blend of that carbob stuff. And only refineries in California make that. Well, Sacramento decided that wasn't enough, and they raised their state tax. This is the state tax, up to 71 cents per gallon. Each gallon the individual driver pumps, 71% of that, or 71 cents of that goes back to Sacramento, goes to the state. So there's a tax issue that there's something there that the consumer may have some control, is how they're taxing the fuel and how even local governments tax gasoline and diesel.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is kind of a little bit of an in, but as for controlling what you pay at the pump, otherwise than that, we're at their mercy.
Yeah, well, we see that in New York, where New York actually charges state and local sales taxes from the first penny to, there is no cap on it. Other states have a cap, but New York, from the first dollar, it's 8.25%, 8.5%, whatever it is, depending upon the county. And so as the price goes up, so does the tax. And it's just ridiculous. Each state charges its own tax. So, whatever the excise tax is, that's what it is. And then there's a federal excise tax that supposedly goes to help fix our roads. But I wonder about that one, the Highway Trust Fund. Right. Yeah, they're doing a great job there, aren't they? But
I had a friend come back from Colorado Springs last week, and he said he was never so happy to be back, he said, in Florida, because he couldn't handle the potholes anymore on the highways out there. Yeah.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And hey, you have to wonder where all that money goes, and they're fighting over it. And then you got the unions and up north that gobble up all the money that should be going to fix the roads and the waste. New York, they've got this thing called the Wicks Law, which I won't even get into, but it just guarantees that the roads will cost twice as much to fix, and bridges and all that, than they should, to give away to the unions. Thank goodness in Florida, right to work state, roads cost far less than they do in the Northeast to fix. And then weather as well is a big factor. But when you start adding all this stuff up, it's just crazy. But nonetheless, technology is eventually going to ensure that roads are impervious to the elements. You see it with precast concrete bridges and things like that. Pretty soon they're going to be made out of composites, and who knows, maybe we'll have flying cars and we won't need roads one day, Pam.
Oh, yeah.
You ever think of that? I think one day it's coming, or I wanted to talk to you about this, but we just don't have the time today. But maybe next time we speak, the self-guided, self-driven vehicle, like the Google car, really is going to mean a lot. It's definitely coming. There's an article today that the Google car has driven millions of miles. It's gotten into 7 minor fender benders with no injuries. And every one of those accidents that's occurred hasn't been that the Google car has hit another car. It's been hit by other cars. I mean, the Google car, self-driven cars, they just can't stay out of trouble, but it's not their fault. Isn't that funny?
Isn't that the first thing you say when you get out of the car after an accident? That's not my fault.
And the Google car's got the camera. It's got it all on video. The stupid humans just can't stop running into each other. Gotta love it.
That's what those cell phones are, folks.
Yeah. Anyway, Pam, people, you're going to want to connect with Pam, find out more, ask her questions. Best place to find you, Pam? Buy your book?
Yes, carcarefortheclueless.com, all one word spelled out. Actually, we're getting a facelift on our website, and hopefully they'll be finished with that this week. They promised me last week, but they should this week for sure. And that's carcarefortheclueless.com, all spelled out. And it's all about making consumers savvy car drivers.
Hey, excellent. We love your site, Pam. And as always, you'll find a link on our site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Go there, sign up for a free webinar. It's coming May 20th with Rick Rule and John Embry, all about financial repression, war on cash. Go over to libertymastermind.us, sign up for it now. You'll also find the link on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Hey, Pam, can't wait to talk to you about those driverless cars. They are the wave of the future. Hey, you be well. Thanks.
Me too. Thank you.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.